Welcome again to another episode of the Interfaiths podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Iqbal Akhtar, and I'm here with two of our colleagues, Pastor Candy and Bianca from Congregational United Church of Christ. Okay, I'm just making sure I got it right. We're very honored for them to join us today. They're part of many interfaith organizations, including the Mosaic Interfaith Clergy Dialogue, and particularly Pastor Candy is an institution here in Miami, and she's done amazing work in sort of the moral upliftment of our community here in Miami, and is a really important voice, I think, moral voice for the challenging times that we live in right now. So I think what we're going to do is we'll start off with kind of you talking a little bit about your life and your experiences, and then we'll go to you, Bianca, and we'll just go back and forth. So talk to us a little bit about where you come from, where you grew up, and sort of how faith became important in your life.
Okay. My full title is the Reverend Candace Thomas, and I say that because I'm an ordained minister in the United Church of Christ. And that means something. It's something I've worked hard for. I think my faith journey began before I was even in confirmation class, which was 7th grade. I grew up in First Evangelical and Reformed Church in Sandusky, Ohio, which in 1957 we had 4 different denominations joined together to become the United Church of Christ. So it became First United Church of Christ. And I was one of those kids that the neighbors take just to Sunday school. We played with the neighbors' kids, and they just took us to Sunday school. And part of the faith journey was when you got to be about in 7th grade, you had confirmation, which was that you studied to renew the baptismal vows your parents had made for you. They promised to bring you up as a Christian. And I guess around 12 was seen as the age when you could start making your own decisions. And so we learned a lot about the Bible and the history of the church and how we're supposed to live our lives as followers of Jesus Christ. And I was the kid with all the questions. I'm sure the other kids in the class wish that Candy would just be quiet so they could leave. But a big part of my faith has been with questions. So anyway, I moved along, was active in church, graduated from high school, went to college, to Kent State University in Ohio, and studied to be an English teacher, minored in library science, graduated, taught English for a year, was not great at discipline, did not like that part of things, loved literature. And so I'd had a summer work experience as a social worker in a children's services agency, which I really did like. And so at that time, I took the test to become a social worker, and on and off for the next 19 years, I worked as a social worker in children's services, took time off to have my 3 kids. I was married and did that and found it fulfilling, but remained involved in a Church of the United Church of Christ, no matter where we lived. And as I got to be in my latter 40s, I got even more involved in the church. I was a deacon, and I decided that I was being called to ministry. In our denomination, we take the idea of calls seriously. It's not a call you hear with your ears. It's a call you feel. It's really hard to describe, but it's so important that one of the steps in being certified, if you will, by the denomination to be ordained is you have to be able to talk about and write about your sense of call. And other people help you decide if that's real or just somehow you got this in your head, you think that would be a good idea. But call for me has been a very real thing. And so when I was about 50, I began seminary and was fortunate enough to be a student pastor full-time in a UCC church. We had a deal where I would go to seminary. I had to drive about 90 miles and would work for the church the rest of the time. And I learned, and it was a great congregation to be in for me. And so I did that. I graduated from the Methodist Theological School in Ohio and Delaware in 1998 and was ordained like a month later. And that was a big deal. That was really a wonderful thing. And stayed at that church for 12 years in all until I decided that it was time to explore other types of ministry. And I took training to be an intentional interim or a transitional minister, where you go to a church that's between a called pastor and you do certain work with them to help them discern, what they're really looking to be as a church. And then you help them as they prepare their profile to call a pastor. And so, in a nutshell, I've been the pastor of 5 churches, and this one that I'm in right now, I've been there for 7 years at Christ Congregational, and feel very fortunate to be in a progressive congregation, which means we're really liberal. That's if you want to define what progressive means. But it's a joy to work with a congregation, especially focused on issues of social justice. So, in a nutshell,
that's amazing. It's a remarkable journey. When were women ordained in the church?
Well, one of our predecessors, it was in the late 1800s, I believe. I haven't looked at my church history for a while, but it hasn't been that common probably for the last, 40 years. When I was growing up, I certainly didn't know of any women pastors, but it's really evolved until, I don't know what the percentages are in the UCC, but I know a lot of women pastors now. But even in my first church, there were a couple of members who left because they didn't think they should call a member, and they didn't think they should call, or as a minister, they didn't think they should call someone who is divorced. They actually left the church. So that was back in 1995 when I started there. So even at that time, at least this was a country church and maybe was a little more conservative, but it was still out there. I've had people, not lately, but still dubious about that.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, it's remarkable. So how did you come to Miami then?
I moved to Miami because my youngest daughter adopted 2 children, 2 Haitian children. And I had told her that if she adopted, I would be family support. So this was in 2014. They got the kids in July, and I was down here by September. Wow. And she was calling me on the way down saying, how fast can you get here? The kids were, I think, about 7 and 9 then, brother and sister. And my daughter didn't have any children, so no experience. So I continue to live around the corner from her, and now they're 21 and 18.
That's remarkable. Wow, okay. All right, let's get Bianca. Yeah. Talk to us a little bit about who are you?
Who am I? So my story is quite a bit different from Pastor Candy's. I was born in Romania, communist at the time, and I lived there until I was about 7.5, almost 8. And we came here. My father escaped Romania at the time and went to a refugee camp in Austria.
Mhm.
And then
That was during Ceausescu's time.
Ceausescu's time. Yeah, wow. Nice.
Mhm.
And so he applied for political asylum here and was granted, and then he requested for us to have political asylum here, and we were also granted that, so we were able to come. And that's how we became citizens, was through our political asylum. And there's a lot of like stuff going on in Romania that we don't need to get into, but needless to say, we made it here. My mom and I, for many reasons, ended up separating from my dad, and so we went to Michigan for a while. Long story short, it was a pretty turbulent childhood time, but at the center of all of it was always our faith. I grew up in a house of faith. It was Romanian Orthodox, so it was quite conservative, but I think always at the center was this like idea that God not just like loves everybody, right? That's true in all ways, but that we have a responsibility to be good and kind to each other, no matter what. Like even if the other person isn't really the same as you or thinks the same as you. And I think maybe growing up in a turbulent space, and there was a lot of times in Romania where you weren't allowed to go to church, or you could even get in trouble for saying certain things. So that space, I was really little, so it didn't affect me in the same way, but it affected the adults around me. So it was an interesting way to start your faith journey from this like conservative angle, but also not as conservative as you would think. So when I came to the United States, and then I became a teenager, and I learned about the Baptist faith, and I was like, wow, that's super different from what I grew up in. And I didn't resonate with a lot of things like, there's this whole premise that when babies are born, they're already born inherently bad because that's just, what they believe. And like women in the Orthodox religion, they can't even go to church. Like you can't step on church property if you're like menstruating, for example. So there's all these like rules that it just like never sat well with me. And I will say that when we came to the US and we were in Michigan for a while, the church community was our second home. It's where we found comfort, even though there was bickering and drama, as in any space that you're ever in, any relationships, there's all kinds of drama. But we did find like kind of home here in the US because it was a Romanian church. And they did a lot of wonderful things for us. There was our first Christmas in Michigan. We had nothing. We literally had like one little tiny room, a room with a bathroom and a little tiny kitchen. That's it. And no furniture. We each had like a bag, a plastic bag of our things. And we like laid it on the floor to make a bed. And that's like what we had. We had no food in the refrigerator. We probably had like a plastic cup and a plastic plate that we got from Goodwill or something. And the church folk got together and they showed up at our door before Christmas and fully outfitted our little apartment. That's amazing. Yes, it really was. It's like a miracle. It was a very beautiful thing. And so I have a lot of like, good, wonderful memories that were made as a child where people come together because not just of their faith, but their love for each other and stuff. And so then I learned a little bit in the Baptist world. Wow, what it means to like be saved, quote unquote. And there was a lot more freedom in it. But I still had issues.
Right.
And becoming an adult, you really start to learn more things. You diversify your thoughts and all these wonderful stuff. And so I had a lot of friends and people that I really cared about who were like of the LGBTQ plus
Right.
community. And it just made me question like everything.
Mhm.
Wait a minute, why would somebody go to hell just because of who they love, you know? So then I went through that journey, and for a long time I was just like, well, I live in my own bubble of faith.
Right.
I didn't know UCC existed, and I was just like, in my heart, I know God loves everybody. I know that like there's nothing that can separate me from that love, and so that's, you know, where I came from. And 3 years ago now, almost 3 years ago now, it was, my birthday was on a Sunday coming up. Yes, I will tell the Bible story. And so for whatever reason, I had been thinking for maybe like 2 years. I'd gone like trying different little churches to see what felt good. And in my heart, I was like, man, I really needed a good church home that I could feel comfortable in. But a lot of it didn't resonate with what I felt in my heart for everybody, for people in general. And I did a Google search. One of the Google searches was like a place that was positive about LGBTQ plus communities. And I came across this UCC church, Christ Congregational, and I was like, you're only 15 minutes away from me.
Yeah.
I have to go try that. So I told my mom, look, for my birthday, I want to go to church. You know, wild thing to say. So please remember, I'm coming from a Romanian Orthodox
Right.
and Baptist background. So I'm showing up to church with Bible in hand, because that's how I know to show up to church.
Yeah.
Wonderful experience. Immediately fell in love with the church, fell in love with the message, fell in love with Pastor Candy.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, I'm home. I'm like, this is peace. And everybody was incredibly welcoming.
Right.
And I was like, this is wonderful. Then later on, Pastor Candy tells me, you know, I wasn't really sure about you because you showed up with Bible in hand. And I totally thought that you were like an undercover, like Christian nationalist trying to scope us out. And I was like, oh, nope, that's not me.
Yeah.
You know, and then cut to 3 years later, and I am now the church program manager. Right. And one of the reasons why I took the job, why they wanted me to take the job, was because I have like 2 decades of experience in the community. So I've been working with nonprofits for a really long time. I work for the Children's Trust.
Right.
I've worked for City of Miami Beach.
Right.
You know, nonprofit has kind of just been in my blood since I got out of high school. Right. I just wished a lot in my life that there were more programs that could have helped my mom, being a single mom, raising me on her own. And so when I got out of high school, I was like, I want to do, I mean, originally I was going to be a teacher, and then I thought better of it. That's where our stories align a little. But then I realized, like, I want to be out in the world helping. So I worked, Switchboard of Miami and the Lifeline and things. So I have a lot of connections in the community. And our church truly, really believes. I mean, we say, or I like to say, we're a small church doing big things. So yes, even though we're a smaller church, we're doing a lot of stuff in the community, and that's my passion. So it really aligned quite well. And then Pastor Candy and I had many conversations about my future. And so, in those conversations, I've kind of been steered, like, I'm being led towards being a student pastor, hopefully starting next year.
That's amazing.
So
wow, that's a great journey.
Yeah.
To be on, and I think a very rewarding one to be. Because I think that's something that all faith communities are always looking for, the next generation of leaders, right? That are going to be able to help keep the message going forward, and you definitely have the energy, which is wonderful.
Thanks.
And the motivation and the drive, which is remarkable. And I'm really heartened by the work that you guys are doing particularly regarding immigration and kind of the challenges that we're having right now. Just being out there, and I know that's sometimes not popular, and there can be a lot of challenges for the work that you're doing. How did you come to Miami then?
That's a longer story.
Okay.
I will try and be as quick as possible. My uncle helped a friend of his a lot. I don't like it. It's a long story, so we're not going to go into it.
Sure.
It was a really big help, and so he owed him one.
Okay.
And my mom's lifelong dream was to live somewhere where there are palm trees.
Okay.
So my uncle, before he passed, was like, you to his friend who lived in Miami, you owe me one. Help my sister get from Michigan to Miami. That's like all I need from you is just like help her figure everything out, help her find an apartment. Like, you don't have to pay for her or anything,
right.
just like help her to get it done. And he did. And so like that was my mom's dream. Like we had a mural in our little tiny apartment in Romania with like the beach and palm trees, because that was her like lifelong dream, was to live somewhere with palm trees. And so she made it happen. My mom is a person who makes things happen. She wanted the American dream. She wanted to own her own place. She made it happen. Right. So yeah, it's a good inspiration.
That's wonderful.
That's how I got here.
Well, you both are quite remarkable people. So Pastor Candy, I mean, what are the main challenges that you see our community facing right now?
It's hard to know where to even start. The justice issues.
What are you working on?
What am I working on? Well,
where are you concentrating your efforts?
I think we're concentrating our efforts on immigration, on helping nonprofits that do the basic work, feeding people. We've been very fortunate. We sold our property, but we have a 20-year lease back, and our property was valuable property. So now we have what I've never experienced before, actually, is having money to do things in addition to, what we do as people with social justice. As you know, so many social programs have been cut.
Yeah.
Jesus was real clear about what his followers are supposed to do. To love and to serve, and we try to do that. We're part of a group that is an interfaith group that is sponsoring and seeing that interfaith prayer vigils happen currently at the cruelly named Alligator Alcatraz every Sunday at 5:00 in the evening for an hour, and those have been a real powerful experience for those of us who participate. We're aligned with the Florida Immigrant Coalition, have helped sponsor events where people can come and get legal help on their immigration issues. We contribute to SOS in Homestead, which provides a lot of services for immigrants and for people experiencing abuse at home, where the families have to be separated. And so we have people who volunteer to get things for them, and then like one of Bianca's jobs is coordinating with them and setting up where the church will provide lunch for everybody who comes to the events. We have a lot of irons in the fire, basically, with providing goods and services. Of course, as a church, we see that worship is the core. And so in worship, we praise God, we pray to God, We thank God. We get filled up ourselves for the work that is being done because it's very draining. But I try to focus on remembering we aren't doing this alone. And that helps me anyway.
Yeah.
Talk to us a little bit about what does this the day-to-day look like?
Yeah, so just to piggyback off of something, we are maybe a month ago, we had a outreach conversation, and we decided, we made a little bit of money off of the money that we have in stocks and stuff. And so we were like, well, we're not a dragon in a cave hoarding money. We are Jesus following folk. So let's do good. So one of the things that we decided that we're going to do is what we're calling 15 for 15. So we're going to be giving $15,000 to 15 different nonprofit organizations in our community. We're really excited to have the honor, the blessing to be able to do that for people. So that's really exciting. And a day-to-day is a lot of work with the community. I sit as vice chair of SOS, and I also chair for En Familia in the Homestead area. So there's a lot of work done there. SOS is moving out of their space and into a new space right now. So there's a lot of just collaborating with them, seeing what their needs are and how we can step in. Florida Immigrant Coalition, shout out to them. This weekend is a big deal for them. They're doing a huge mega drive, I think is what they call it, all around immigration. So we do little ones. We do little citizenship drives. We usually have like maybe 30 to 40 people show up to those. They're doing like really big, like hundreds of people showing up to those this weekend. And so I'll help with that and our involvement in PACT, shout out to them, people acting in community together. So there's a lot of fighting for right now housing related issues. So the big thing is last night, which I haven't even checked yet, what the outcome was of the Miami-Dade County budget hearing. But in April, we had our Nehemiah Action where I was able to speak. I was going to have a dialogue with a commissioner, but he didn't show up. So, there was a lot of that kind of work where you're like literally out in the community, talking to people from Miami Workers Center, going to those kinds of events, press conferences. I've never had my face in the newspaper this many times. So it's just a lot of that sort of coordination. Yeah.
I should mention too that we are an open and affirming church.
Yes.
Which means that we're open and affirming to everybody, and especially to the LGBTQ plus folks. We have our rainbow flag out every Sunday, and we have members of the congregation who are in that community who are valued members, and I attend the PFLAG meetings monthly, which are the parents and friends of LGBTQ plus people. So that's an important thing to us.
Yeah, this past spring, we went to the Capitol, the state Capitol in Tallahassee. They have Pride at the Capitol for a week, and we plan on going again, and we go with Equality Florida. One more shout out to them. And we speak to legislators about LGBTQ plus rights and try and convince them and help them to understand that some of the legislation they're trying to put out is very, very harmful to people. And
marched in the Let Us Live transgender parade.
Yeah. So like when we like to say that we live what we say we want to live. If you're going to say love like Jesus, then you have to walk the walk, not just talk the talk.
Sure. Two more questions. One is, Pastor Candy, what is, there's a lot of narratives or stories of what it means to be a Christian, what is your understanding of Jesus's message?
Well, I believe Jesus is the Son of God, and I believe that he was very clear with his words and his actions about what God expects of us. To love and to serve is the basic thing. And by love, I don't mean necessarily that emotion. I mean that you demonstrate that love by the golden rule, as simple as that. You do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And it troubles me. Christian nationalism troubles me greatly because they have so twisted the message of Jesus. And I don't like that being co-opted. It's, we're given one precious life, and you can do so much for it to have meaning. We aren't just here to mark time, and that's a gift because it means God has expectations of us, and you don't have expectations of somebody unless you know they can do it. Every life can have a purpose. You don't have to be a professional, so to speak, whether you're in any profession or no profession. You can live out Christian faith and the Abrahamic faiths. We share many of the same values. I just encourage any students watching, let your life have meaning. Your faith isn't separate from how you live, your other part of your life. It isn't in a compartment. And you have abilities to make this world a better place. I preach about hope a lot and about peace. We have Peace Sunday coming up this Sunday. We are people of hope, Christians, and that hope is founded in God's love.
It's beautiful. Bianca, do you have any last words for our students?
Come to worship with us on Sunday at 11 a.m. every Sunday. We are a welcoming people, and I 100% agree with Pastor Candy. Jesus's message was love, and not money hoarding, not kick your immigrants out. He said the opposite. So if I could give advice to students, it would be your career is your career. You can change it. You can love teaching today and hate it tomorrow. You can love being in tech today and hate it tomorrow. So put your passion into it if you want to, but remember to love the people around you. Bring kindness into the world, bring peace into the world. When you see somebody struggling, don't be silent about it. Stand up for what you think is right. Whether you believe in God or not, whether you have a faith or not, the moral compass is still there to love one another, to be kind to each other, and to stand up for what is right. I think that would be, no matter what your career is, whatever your path may be, you're still a human being, and the next person is just as human as you. And so we're all in it together, guys.
Yeah. That's beautiful. Pastor Candy, anything else you'd like to say?
I don't know. The world is a challenging place right now. But you have the gift of youth. Some of you are older students, but know this. I turned 80 yesterday.
Congratulations.
Thanks. And this is your whole life. Your career might stop when you think you're retired at 65 or whatever, but think in terms of your whole life of learning and growing and doing, and pay attention to this beautiful world that God has made and given us, that it is just one sign after another of the goodness and the creativity that God has. Don't go through life with blinders on, and do good. Do good.
Well, thank you for those inspirational words. Thank you so much, Pastor Candy and Bianca, for coming in today. We really appreciate your time and your wisdom, and hopefully that will be something to inspire people as well.
Thanks for having
Yeah,
us.
of course.
Thank you.
It's an
Thanks
honor
for
and
the
a pleasure.
invite.